Hi, folks. Welcome to Resolute Square. And this is a new show we're calling The Takedown. We're going to get hyper focused on some of the bad guys that are out there in the world. Some of the people that are actively wrecking our democracy, actively breaking the things that this country needs to survive as a functioning republic and as a representative democracy. And we're not just going to focus on the small players. It's easy to make fun of Marjorie Taylor Greene or Lauren Boebert or the idiots in the mutant parade. No, we're going to go after the people who are at scale. We're going to go after people like the Murdochs. We're going to go after the people who have empowered this movement, this MAGA movement. We're going to go after the people that are the tip of the spear, the head of the snake. And tonight, we have seen the damage that's been wrought already on the public space that we call Twitter by Elon Musk. And he's one of the richest men on the planet. He is a guy who has fabulous resources. He has enormous wealth. He has tremendous power. And the idea that Elon bought Twitter initially to turn it into what he called a free speech platform is increasingly being proven to be a lie. It is increasingly looking like he's trying to weaponize this platform to represent a very specific strain of Silicon Valley bro-libertarian MAGA weirdness. And we're going to talk about that tonight. In a few minutes, I'm going to be joined by my good friend and partner in crime at the Lincoln Project, Stuart Stevens, and here at Resolute Square. And soon after that, we're going to bring in my bestie, Molly Jong-Fast. And in a little while after that, we're going to talk through some of the comings and goings of Elon mania. And then we're going to bring in Victor Shi, who is a brilliant young Gen Z activist and the host of iGen Politics. He is just one of the smartest young rising stars out there. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in Stu Stevens. And welcome, Stu.
Hey, Rick. How are you, man?
Well, we were just before the show started, we were making sure Stu wasn't on his Starlink because you never know what will happen if we're talking about Elon Musk while we're on Starlink.
He's everywhere, dude. He's everywhere.
He's ubiquitous. Stuart, I guess one of the things that people always think about, coming out of the Republican Party is there was always a kind of Republican bro culture. There was always a sort of male-dominated party when we were coming up particularly. But it's got nothing on the Silicon Valley bros. And I think of this show tonight to talk about Elon, it's not just what he's doing to Twitter, and we want to talk about that in a few minutes, but it's also like reflective of who he is generationally and politically. And tell us what you and I have been talking about this a lot lately. Give us your read on where Elon comes from psychologically.
There's this weird phenomenon, I think, of sort of accidental wealth. And there's what's known as the PayPal mafia. Peter Thiel came out of that. And they're people who have certain brilliance, but their brilliance is not to be equated with wisdom. And it's given them tremendous power. I mean, I think you could make an argument, it's a credible argument, I think, that PayPal is the wealth that it has spun off is doing to our civil society what cocaine did for Colombia. It's this idea that all of a sudden, you have these people have vast wealth, they have vast power, they have vast ambitions, but the relationship between merit and reward is completely skewed.
Sure.
And that's, why did this guy buy Twitter? He didn't buy it as a business because the first thing he would do, or what would Warren Buffett do? He would put somebody in there to run it who knows how to run it, who would make money. So it's clearly to work out some sort of personal issues that he has. Musk always reminds me of that kid in the back of the class who's making fart noises that we knew to get attention. He'll just say things. But it's dangerous when he says these things. I mean, it's dangerous when he tweets a photo of a Nazi soldier with carrier pigeons and makes a joke about his own company. Right. I mean, it's when he lets in these people who really have no business being part of a public square. I mean, everybody should be part of the public square.
Yeah, and I mean, for all that the MAGA right misinterprets the First Amendment and the concept of free speech under our Constitution, it strikes me that these guys, in a lot of ways, are inimical to free speech. They do not really believe in it.
Sure.
And the destruction of this platform, it almost seems to me that the motivation for him buying it was he felt like that that all the MAGA substitutes, Getter, Parler, Truth Social, were just very insufficient as a propaganda vector, and that he's right now behind the scenes sort of spinning the knobs. So with that, I want to bring in my friend Molly Jong-Fast, one of my favorite people in the whole wide world, who is a keen observer of not only the sort of bro culture out there in the universe, but also of the Twitter machine herself. She like me has been familiar with Twitter's ups and downs. So let's bring Molly in if we could. Somehow. Still working on this stuff, folks. We're getting there. We got Victor.
No, we got Victor.
We got Victor now. Okay. Listen, hey, Victor. We're trying to get Molly, but we got you instead.
I am no Molly Jong-Fast, though.
You are no Molly Jong-Fast. I love you, brother, but you are no Molly Jong-Fast.
Nor are any of us, Victor. So don't take it personally.
Nor are any of us. All right. Well, let's the producers bring in Molly. In the meantime, so Victor, I think we've seen a weird generational thing with social media platforms in the last few years, where the sort of boomer generation was heavily into Facebook for a while. The X generation was into using Twitter, and a lot of journalists and activists fit in that sort of Gen X and millennial space. And apocryphally, at least, the Gen Z folks are more comfortable on TikTok at the moment. Is what Musk is doing right now on this platform going to continue to drive the younger social media users and younger voters out of Twitter completely?
So, I mean, like you said, there weren't many young people to begin with on Twitter. Twitter tends to be a place where a lot of academics, professors, activists, just people who really aren't young people are online.
Journalists, a lot of journalists.
Journalists, yeah. Exactly, yeah. So a lot of those type of people are on Twitter. Young people are mostly on TikTok and Instagram, but for the few young people who are left on Twitter, I've been hearing a lot of young people just really become annoyed and irritated with what Elon Musk is trying to do. Like you said at the outset, this is someone who purports to make Twitter into a place where everyone can have a voice, where the First Amendment and free speech can reign, but his actions have not aligned at all with his values, and that's it. Gen Zers and young people care a lot about is whether or not you match your actions with your values. And that's something that Elon Musk just hasn't done so far with his time at Twitter. It's been erratic. It's been chaotic. He's brought back a lot of dangerous people. And that's why a lot of, I think, young people are on places like TikTok, because even before Elon Musk took over, Twitter was one of those places where, even though it had a lot of benefits, just wasn't the type of kind of, I think, medium and social media platform that young people were used to, I think.
Well, I think that's right. There's Molly.
Hey, Molly.
We got you back.
Wow.
Hey, Victor popped on and we were immediately surprised. And we're like, you're no Molly Jong-Fast.
But just don't worry. He didn't pretend to be. Don't worry.
So, Victor, those are excellent points about younger voters and about that sort of sense that Twitter is not really a welcoming place for them. But Molly, what I was talking about was, there's a part of Elon that almost seems like he wants to just burn the place to the ground because it was too effective as a platform for people to communicate outside of the sort of MAGA, like social media ghettos of Getter, Parler, Truth, etc.
So I think the central tension here is Elon Musk playing three-dimensional chess, or is he having some kind of meltdown, right? I mean, that's the question.
I go with the latter.
I don't know, but I mean, I think that's ultimately the tension, right? Because I've heard from people saying that, there are people who think that he's trying to drive down the valuation of the company by acting crazy so that he doesn't have to service all this debt. But that's worked for him before, right? He drove PayPal almost to the brink. He's a very he's a gambler. So maybe that's what he's doing. My guess is that there's I don't know. I mean, he does seem in his behavior to be quite unhinged, but that doesn't mean that he is. I'm not one of those people who believes he's not smart. I think he's smart. I just think
he's very smart.
That I think
there was a theory of the case. What you mentioned of him trying to drive down the valuation so the debt service breaks. There was somebody on Kara Swisher's podcast the other day who had that same theory, and I think it had some validity to it. But my point is, of that 13 billion of high value debt, of high interest debt he has, a lot of that's to the Saudis. And you don't play the Saudis, they bring a bone saw.
Well, so he's rolling over the Saudi debt that was in the
Right.
original
The
Twitter.
first tranche. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, I mean, again, like it's I don't know. I mean, I think they are, again, with that story, I wonder how much that's like the bankers wanting that to be true. The bankers friends of Elon wanting that to be true. Look, there are a lot of people, right, who are employed by Tesla and Skylink, Neuralink, and and his other companies and Twitter, for whom they need him to be not a crazy person.
Right.
And so I would say there's some anxiety there.
Yeah, this reminds me a lot of Donald Trump. Like when people, you have to believe that that Donald Trump actually has a plan, or otherwise he's just like this sort of dumb, crazy guy. And I think the same, or erratic, crazy guy. I don't think Musk is dumb, but you have to ask yourself: could Elon Musk stop? Does he have the ability to stop himself? And I kind of don't think so. I mean, this is a pattern that has repeated itself. When he tweeted stuff about Tesla, they got him in trouble. Of all the investments in the world, why would you buy Twitter at $44 billion? You're not buying it for an investment. You're not buying it to make money. So therefore, you're buying it for other purposes.
And I don't think he's buying it for vanity. I mean, he owns a meaningfully important car company. He owns the most important space and rocket business that's running right now. And that's the thing that I find is like slightly tragic about the guy. SpaceX is actually important as part of the American economy going forward. Tesla could be important, but Twitter and the way he's treating it, I can't figure out if this is, is there a three-dimensional chess thing where he's essentially trying to convert this into a, MAGA friendly thing that reflects the weird, shitty bro culture around him of all these guys like David Sachs and Jason Calacanis, all these idiots that he's brought into Twitter who are 50-something tech bros who have somehow or another gotten the weird, like, Glenn Beck brain virus.
Well, or have they gotten it, or did they always have it?
Maybe always had it.
I think they always had it. I mean, if you go back and you look at the book that Peter Thiel and David Sachs wrote back in the 90s about sort of permissive culture on campus and the horrible stuff they wrote about women that I'm not even going to repeat. That's weird. That's someone that has deep issues about women, and that sort of culture does. Why does Peter Thiel support Blake Masters, J.D. Vance? It's the same kind of. It's just something off about these people. They're using a very public space to work through personal issues. But I have a question for Victor. Does it bother? I mean, so TikTok's owned by the Chinese, right? So, I mean, the TikTok, I never go on TikTok. I mean, why is it this troubling, or is it troubling and we just never hear about it to, the vast throngs of young people that are flocking to it?
I mean, I don't think the ownership of TikTok by the Chinese is troubling to a lot of young people. I think that TikTok represents a space, at least for a lot of the young people that I've talked to, where news is a big place on TikTok. Yes, there's misinformation. Yes, there's disinformation, but it's a place where people can kind of find community. And I think for young people, it offers these kind of short, digestible pieces of content for young people to just consume information. Twitter, I think, I don't know. There's something where young people just don't really find themselves on Twitter, kind of like Facebook. And I think it's because there's kind of this mean culture around TikTok and Instagram that's more appealing for young people, that I think speaks to more of our attention spans, kind of gets our attention easier than something like Twitter or Facebook.
You can be more of your own star on TikTok.
Exactly.
And it allows you to communicate in a non-written medium much easier, which I think.
Molly's TikTok includes a lot of dancing. It's fantastic. You should really check it out.
No, I'm not on TikTok because my kids would have a complete nervous breakdown. They
But if you
asked
went on
me,
TikTok, I would start
Well, is that
following
the
TikTok
reason
more.
to be on TikTok?
really, they took what I have these kids, and the teenagers took me aside, and there was weeping. It was, please, mom, don't ruin this for us.
I think there's a place for
You
everyone
could
on
always do it
TikTok.
under an assumed name, and that would be,
Yeah, they
perhaps
would
give
love
them
that.
a
Yeah.
break.
I had to give them this one platform, so I was happy to do it.
So, Molly, how do you see this playing out? What?
I mean, I think so. There are two choices, right? One is that Elon is able to influence the 2024 election. He brings Trump back onto the platform. We know Trump wants to get back on the platform. He is able to, Richard Spencer is able to have more Twitter spaces as he did today. It
Is
ends up,
Spencer back?
he did a space today.
Of course he did.
So,
Of course he's back.
so you have so it becomes like 4chan. So, I mean, the issue here is that eventually at first advertisers leave and then journalists leave. And
Right.
once journalists leave, I don't know how useful the platform, easy it is to different, if all the journalists leave, then isn't it 4chan? So like,
Yeah, look, I think part of what Musk is doing very deliberately, he's trying to poison the platform, like with his bullshit Twitter Blue verified, verify for pay thing. He's trying to poison the value of the platform of elite opinion. And if Tom Nichols were here, he would tell us about the death of expertise, because the idea that I think a lot of MAGAs are on Twitter only so they can own the libs, only so they can try to get in the shit of people who they consider look down on them. And so this idea that you're going to radically democratize the platform by making everybody who pays $8 a month verified, it doesn't make them verified. I can buy a baton. It doesn't make me an orchestra conductor.
But I also think ultimately the reason why Twitter has this power is because it's journalists and it's politicians. So if it becomes so, there's so, you have things where you have like a fake Macron tweeting that we're going to go to war with England. If that happens, those politicians and journalists will leave the platform, and then it will be 4chan. And so again, I understand the short-term impulse that he is having, which is to make his friends happy. People like Andy know, and to suspend all the accounts that annoy them, right? And certainly that is something that he's probably getting a lot of positive feedback from. I mean, he does seem, the thing that does seem very clear to me after watching him on Twitter for a long time is that he is very connected to, like, is he getting positive or is he getting negative reinforcement? So in fact, he tweeted.
Isn't that a definition of a very insecure person who doesn't know who he is?
But I mean,
that's sort of dangerous.
Weren't nice to him, I mean, so I would say, that I think is true.
There's a to put it bluntly, there's a big thing that codes about a lot of these tech guys. And I will say this, even though Elon Musk has something like 4,000 children, these guys code as the guys who didn't get laid in college. And just to be as blunt as I can about it. And they're like, the compensation is so insane. And the guy, there's a part of Elon Musk that seems kind of sad to me. Like that scene of the empty diet, caffeine-free Diet Coke cans and the video game gun.
And the fake guns. Yeah.
Come on, dude.
But I mean, I do think, the Republicans are happy to be nice to him, right? Like you saw Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley is already trying to investigate the Apple Store for charging a 30% surcharge. I mean, he is using these Republican politicians like an ATM. And I do think, we're seeing and we saw this, we've seen this with DeSantis too, these sort of anti-capitalist, pro-crony capitalism part of the Republican Party. Right.
Well, one of the things I think that is that sort of sticks out to me is the GOP and Musk both have a sort of like Putin curious thing going on right now, which I think you're right. I mean, the 2024 elections are one of the dangers, but he's also, I think, sort of playing into this idea of normalizing what Putin did in Ukraine. And I find that to be one of the things that really, I think it's dangerous and weird. And it could have a big effect on how Congress deals with Ukraine in the next 6 months as we change party control.
I mean, in my mind, the Viktor Orban stuff, where the Republican Party is like obsessed with authoritarianism,
Right.
is scarier than the Ukraine stuff, because the truth is Biden still has power. He is the president, and the Senate is Democratic. So, yes, they can hold up aid, but there's a large, and
Yeah.
Americans are still very committed to Ukraine, I think.
I'm just curious if he starts to undo all the things that were built after 2016 to sort of suppress the Russian bot armies, et cetera. If he just throws the switch off on those, you will start changing American opinion on that, just because it's pennies on the dollar for Putin to influence MAGA voters in particular. So, Molly, we know you have got to go to a fabulous, glamorous Manhattan event which we
weren't invited to, but that's okay.
Fabulous people will be elite together. So, thank you so very much for coming on the Takedown tonight. It was wonderful to see you as always, and we will let you get to your waiting chariot.
And Victor and I are going to create a fake Molly Jong-Fast TikTok account just to embarrass your children.
Absolutely.
As soon as this is over, we're going to get to work on it.
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
We'll see you soon. All right. Well, Molly's off into the big world, and it just leaves us guys. So,
or just us bros.
Just us bros.
Better bros than Elon Musk.
One of the things that I think is like made such a vast and crazy comeback in the last, in the Musk era is, and I think he thinks it's funny. I think he thinks it's for the lulz, it's for the owning of the libs, is the Twitter troll culture is back at a level that is just beyond.
Right.
And I think this really reflects like that idea you want to poison and break the system.
Yeah.
You want to break it. You want to make it so unpleasant, uncomfortable, undesirable to be there just by like 24/7 full-time assholes all the time. I mean, do you guys think that, how long do you think you can accelerate that before you lose all the advertisers and all the people who give a shit about like any kind of discourse on this platform?
I mean, I honestly don't know what his end goal is. There's so much that he does that's just so confusing. I mean, you think of things like what he's some of the key teams at Twitter. I mean, some of the key teams that control manipulation and misinformation, disinformation. He's gotten rid of all of those teams. He wants to get rid of up to 75% of the employees. I mean, all of these things are so antithetical to, I think, what makes a good tech company. You need creativity. You need innovation. Right. I think you need just a place where people can go to and just test ideas. But since he's been there, he's forced people to work really long hours. I think there was one point where someone said that they were working 80 hours a week. I mean, it's all of these things where I think it's really confusing. I'm not sure what his end goal is, but I think, like you said, Rick, I think there's a lot of it where it's just to really sow chaos, division, fear, and that's what the Republican Party is also doing. So I'm not sure where he's trying to go with this, but it's confusing to me on a lot of different levels.
You know what reminds me about the Republican culture is there doesn't seem to be any value at work here. Yeah. It's a sort of selfishness and a sort of impulse, lack of impulse restraint. Because I think this because I'm mad, I'm going to act out. I'm mad at a group of society because they scorn me, so therefore I'm going to reflect. I mean, is there a better sort of pairing than Ted Cruz and Elon Musk? I mean, these are the guys like in college. There was like on Saturday night was a dorm room at the end of the hall, like, which they would be said like no woman ever entered this room. And they would be there talking about like how people didn't, really get them and understand them. There's a kind of latent, strange and sad, I think, anger about it. And the idea that he feels that because he has an opinion, it's valid. I have an opinion on Ukraine. about how we should have a geopolitical solution between Ukraine and Putin that's going to affect the future of Western civilization, and I'm going to use this to like share it. That's a sense of not knowing your own limits, which is like one of the definitions of kind of like being half crazy.
Right. Well, I think that lack of limits is what's also making him blind to the impact this is going to have, not just on Twitter, but on Elon himself. This is like a corollary of everything Trump touches dies. Like everyone who tries to get into this world of trying to reshape the universe around the MAGA principles and whatever weirdnesses that they tend to believe in, they do not survive it. It does not go well for them. This is a guy who he better do very well with this and every other business he has right now, because it's going to be very difficult for him to go out again into the markets and say, hey, I want to start a new company making X or Y widget. It's going to be very difficult for him to say, hey, I need to fund Neuralink at a certain level so I can put brain chips in your head. And by the way, any human being right now, after watching what's going on here, who thinks a chip installed in your brain made by Elon Musk is a good idea, it's like the leopard eating your face party. Why is the leopard eating my face? Because it's a leopard that eats faces. Why is this brain chip making me insane? Because it's made by a person who is insane.
So, Victor, let me ask you a question. Like, not to always be putting in a position of being spokesperson for a generation, which isn't really fair.
Right?
But is there any? Could you sum up any sort of consensus view that sort of people your age would have about Elon Musk? Is he someone they look up to?
So I think Elon Musk has a bit of a conflicting image for a lot of young people. I think a lot of young people still see Elon Musk through the lens of Tesla, which is huge and innovative, and I think really just transformative. They also view him through the lens of SpaceX, which is something that a lot of young people also kind of have a fascination with.
Both are cool. I mean, they're kind of cool.
Yes, exactly. Both are cool. They capture attention.
It'd be cool to have a rocket company. It's cool to have your own car company. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And I think they tend to view him through that lens. But the more I think people see Elon Musk through the lens of Twitter, they really see, I think, like you said, Rick, at the beginning, Tom Nichols has this great piece about the death of expertise. And this is just someone who pretends like he's good at everything, but really isn't good at anything. I mean, he led, yes, Tesla and SpaceX, but he really didn't do that much.
He didn't start Tesla. It wasn't his idea.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not his idea at all. And the more he does things, it just seems like he's just getting into this doom cycle of just proving that he's incompetent at anything. Yeah. And so, but a lot of people, I think, still view him through that Tesla lens. And same thing with, Kanye West. A lot of people have trouble separating the person from the artist, or maybe in this case, the person from the business that they run. And but I think the more that they kind of speak out and the more they go on Twitter and post things, the more young people realize, I mean, these people are just absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was reading this piece that interviewed a guy who was an engineer at SpaceX. He said that he designed this program that would just run gibberish on his computer at a very fast rate, so it looked like he was really working. And that when Musk came around, he would look at it and like pretend that he understood it and say, "This is really great." I sort of summed it up perfectly. Like, here, yeah. No, that's really smart, man. That's really smart.
Amazing. All right, guys. Well, let's take some questions from the audience out there. And folks, if you want to join in the conversation and help build Resolute Square as an antidote to the MAGA media, we hope you'll go over to resolutesquare.com and subscribe. We have a bunch of different plans and options for you to subscribe and join this cause, join this fight, and to get some really cool content that we're developing now, like this show. This show is the kind of creative thing that we came up with yesterday because we thought that it's time for us to take smart people, to analyze what bad people are doing, and to call them out, and not only just to talk about what they're doing, but to help give you tools to understand how to push back against them. We're going to keep developing this show because there are a hell of a lot of bad guys doing a hell of a lot of bad things. So if you want to go over to resolutesquare.com and subscribe today, we would certainly appreciate it. We will put your support to work in building great new content for folks like you. So we've got some audience questions. I want to start with Scott Salzman. How can we best use Elon's issues against him, both on and off Twitter? That's a great question, Scott.
That is a great question.
Do you want me to take it or
Yeah, please.
Yeah, go, Victor.
I mean, I think it takes all of us to just still. I know there are a lot of people who are trying to leave Twitter, and Molly was alluding to this. We need people who are still going to be online and hold these people accountable. Because at the end of the day, I think for Elon Musk and a bunch of billionaires out there, it's accountability that's lacking. And I think accountability has been something that this country has needed for a long time with Donald Trump. Something that I think we need with Elon Musk. Because a lot of the times, I think what you're seeing with Elon Musk is someone who really just has a lot of yes men around him. He's fired key employees because they go against what he wants to say. And so the only people I think to call out his lies and his absurdities are the people still left on Twitter. And so I think it takes all of us to still use the platform to see what Elon tweets and to actively push back on it. I think we all have the power through our platform, through our voices, to continue pushing back against the narrative that he's trying to create.
The only thing that bothers me about I agree with that. I come down on that side. But now that it's a private company, we are kind of Elon Musk employees. We are the content providers of Elon Musk. Every time we're working for free for Elon Musk, which is sort of the Facebook model. And I mean, that bothers me if I think about it. So I just choose not to think about it. And I'm going to stay on Twitter because I think it's more important. But there is something deeply ironic about it, that this guy, could take it public. So now we're going to work for him and we're going to give him free employees. Like, we're working. If you're on Twitter 24 hours a week, you're spending 24 hours a week working for Elon Musk, which is kind of an odd thing to think about.
Well, I think that's right on point. We got a question from T. Scott. So, is it the time to delete Twitter accounts and find another platform? What do y'all think of posts? Listen, I've made the point that I knew Elon would bring Trump back on the platform. And that's where the war is going to be fought in 2024. He will bring him back because he can't resist the traffic. And
Trump, you were predicting that some time ago, man. I got to give you credit for that.
Probably back in July or August.
Yeah, you called that move. Yeah.
And look, Trump will come back to this platform. We are going to have to fight him there. It's also something that we're very good at getting into his head on Twitter and getting into his people's heads on Twitter and messing with their game. And if the game is being fought there and you're on another platform, you're not really in the game. That's a regrettable position because a crazy person owns the platform right now. But I also don't want to ever be in a position, Scott, where you're driven away from a public debate and driven away from a space because it's unpleasant, because of this sort of Gresham's law of bad driving out good. I really believe that you got to stay in that fight as long as you can, and you got to stay in that fight as hard as you can. And Twitter's still that place. That said, the capriciousness of Elon Musk is something that we all have to face. I've got an account on Post. I apparently have an account on Mastodon. I didn't remember doing it. I did it years ago. And there may end up being a diaspora from Twitter. Not all social media platforms survive. Facebook has certainly started to collapse as it ate MySpace, and MySpace ate things before it. We'll see. But for right now, I think we have to stay in the fight. And as the guys were just saying a second ago, I think it's really important. So,
Victor, do you have accounts anywhere else?
So I have Post and Mastodon. I don't think I like Post. I think it has potential. Mastodon confuses me on a lot of different levels. I don't think it's a very great user-friendly interface. And I'm on TikTok, but I don't post on TikTok. But we can pretend to be Molly.
Mastodon to me is like ranked voting. I still don't understand it whenever much people.
Right. I'm not a dumb guy, but I look at Mastodon and I'm like, oh. So Annette, Danny, how will we know when to pull the plug on Twitter and leave? Annette, that's a great question. Yeah. I'll throw that to Victor first and then to Stuart.
I mean, I think we stand there until the day that it collapses. I mean, I can't imagine, I think right now it's pretty bad. And I think we have a lot of kind of signs where if people want to leave, they can leave. But I think for most of us, we just have to stay on until the last day of Twitter. Elon is still going to be doing his normal content and spreading, a lot of just absurdities and lies and misinformation. And Trump's going to be back on, like you said, Rick. But I think we just still have to be on this platform. And I guess the sign will be when we can no longer use it.
Yeah, I think about this. We used the metaphor that it's a public square. So what if it was actually a public square? What if we were in a public square and on the other side there were these MAGA guys, people there? Would we let that drive us out of that square? we're the type that would stay and try to get in the fight with those guys.
Yeah,
So
I may be 59 years old now, but
yeah,
I've
we would not walk away from that.
enough of
So
my history that I know who I am. I'm not going to walk
yeah,
away from it.
yeah. So if we buy that metaphor, why should we walk away now? So I think you're exactly right, Victor. Yeah.
Because I think once you leave, you give them power, and then that becomes
Right.
something I don't
Yep.
agree on at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, believe me, now that Richard Spencer's back, I'm going to show that punch meme every fucking day. Every time he opens his mouth, I'm going to post that meme of him getting punched square in the face. We got a question from Jen who says, is driving the value of Twitter down legal? Yeah, Jen, actually it is. He owns the company. Now, stiffing the people he owes money to, again, a lot of that money is Saudi. And if you borrow money from the Saudis and you don't pay them back, they're going to come at you with a bone saw. But he owns the company. He can do with it what he will. He has a fiduciary responsibility to the people he has debt with, but as the CEO and sole board member, the guy basically has a very expensive toy right now.
But there are, I think it's worth noting that, like, you can see in Europe where they have very strict laws involving termination of employment and what the employment restrictions are. And you see him, he's about to get banned from Europe because he's out there sending these midnight emails to all the employees in Europe saying you're fired. And it's like, well, no, that's actually against the law here. You can't do that. That's a process you have to go through. And it's like, just because you're doing this in America doesn't mean that it's legal here in Europe.
Like so many things. Well, guys, we are coming up towards the end of the show tonight. I want to thank everybody for joining the premiere episode of The Takedown. Send us your suggestions at resolutesquare.com for new shows you'd like to see on The Takedown. Believe me, the list is going to be long and distinguished, and we're going to tighten the show up to target some of the people at the very top. Don't worry, we will be visiting the Murdochs very soon. We will be visiting people like Steve Bannon very soon on this show because, again, there's a lot of crazy that's downstream of some very dark people and some very dark forces in this society. I want to say a little bit more as we wrap up. I want to thank Stuart, Victor, and Molly for joining us tonight. I want to say this directly to Elon if there's any chance that he ends up seeing this video. Dude, you are a smart guy. You're also broken, as we all are. I get it. All of us are broken. I'm broken as shit, okay? You have certain competencies and skill sets that you believe are universally transferable. They're not. Okay, I'm a pilot. I'm a pretty good pilot. But if you strap me into an F-22 right now, I'm going to take off, fly for a bit, and I'm probably going to crash and burn. Okay? You're probably going to crash and burn. You clearly have some issues going on in your life. I get it. But I want to say this too, Elon, because I think you're, again, a smart guy who does some valuable things. I think SpaceX is one of the most important things for humanity and for the country. It's an unbelievable technological accomplishment. It's really doing something important. Why do you have to be an asshole right now? You could be revered by America. You could be revered by the world for providing massive lift to orbit. It's a holy grail of space travel, man. It's why it's so disappointing to watch you assing off with these fucking morons like Andy Ngo and Richard Spencer and the rest of this crew of skells and scumbags and weirdos. And if you believe that stuff, you believe it. But you had an opportunity to be something bigger and to be an important historical figure and to be a guy who helped humanity spread into space. That's a big deal. But right now, you're on a path to being a guy who's considered to be a weird dude with diet caffeine-free Coke cans, which is a whole separate fucking problem. That's a cry for help, dude. Who really broke himself while he was trying to break this space. If you've got some other secret sauce going on here that you think this is going to become, the way you impose a set of values on the country, you're probably wrong. But in the meantime, you're going to hurt a lot of people, do a lot of damage, mostly to yourself. Folks, once again, thank you very, very much for tuning in to the first episode of The Takedown. Resolute Square is a growing community that is built around one big principle. The right has a multi-billion-dollar media ecosystem. It is supported by people with 7- and 8-figure checkbooks who are funding it every day. Fox is a massive thing that is worth billions of dollars because Rupert Murdoch built a right-wing propaganda machine. We don't have any billionaire sugar daddies for Resolute Square. We don't have any billionaire deep-pocketed guys who said, hey, we need to push back on this. A lot of people talk a great game about pushing back. We're bootstrapping this thing. We're building it up from scratch. You know the work we do at the Lincoln Project. We've moved this over to Resolute Square on the private sector side because there are things a super PAC just can't do in this fight. But we do know how to make content. We knew how to talk to people, communicate with folks. And so that's why I'm asking you, if you can join Resolute Square and support this movement, support this effort, it means everything. We can fund this, we can build this, we can do this, we can lead this fight together because it's important. It's a fight that we think matters. It's a fight that we believe is the vital center, because politics aside is not going to get you there. Politics aside is not going to be the only thing that solves this problem. So we hope you'll join us. Go over to resolutesquare.com. You can get a membership for a friend or a family member as well. It's a great Christmas gift, as they say. Hope you'll join us. Hope you'll support us. Hope you'll get us in this fight. We're having fun doing this, and we hope you'll have some fun with it too. And we'll hope we'll give you the tools to be in this fight for the long haul. Thanks, everybody, and have a great night.
And you'll get to read Victor's writing because he's going to be working there.
And both Stuart and Rick's too.
He's a hell of a writer. So
He really is. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
All right, guys.
Thanks. Great seeing you guys.